Have you ever wondered what happens to the soul of someone who has been cremated? Is there a spiritual risk in this increasingly common practice? Does cremation somehow affect salvation or the eternal rest of our loved ones? These are difficult questions that many of us face, but few dare to ask openly. Even more important when holy voices like Padre Pio have given warnings that we simply cannot ignore. I want you to pause for a moment and really think about this. What if the decisions we make about our physical remains actually have spiritual consequences? What if there's a profound connection between how we treat the body after death and the journey of the soul? Today, I'm going to share with you what Padre Pio, one of the most mystically gifted saints of our time, revealed about cremation and the fate of the soul. This isn't just theological speculation. This touches the very core of who we are: body, soul, and spirit, united in the same dignity. At the heart of Christianity lies a profound truth. Our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, and within them dwells the mystery of the resurrection. So, what happens when the body is reduced to ashes? And how should we navigate this reality through the lens of faith, church teaching, and the wisdom of saints like Padre Pio? If you've ever lost a loved one who was cremated, or if you're considering cremation for yourself or a family member, this message is especially for you. There's something Padre Pio urgently wants you to understand, something that could bring peace to your heart and clarity to your mind. Before we continue, if you believe in the power of Padre Pio's intercession, write in the comments, "Padre Pio, guide my understanding." This simple act of faith opens your heart to receive what the Holy Spirit wants to reveal to you today. What I'm about to share with you is rarely discussed in such depth, but it's absolutely essential for every believer to understand. I promise that by the end of this video, you'll have a completely new perspective on this sensitive topicone that honors both the body and the soul in God's divine plan. To understand Padre Pio's perspective on cremation, we must first grasp how our faith views the human body. This isn't merely philosophical, it's the foundation for everything else we'll discuss today. In our modern world, we often reduce the body to something utilitarian, a vessel, a machine, or worse, a burden. But in Catholic teaching, the body is sacred, precious, and irreplaceable. It's not something we own like property. It's a gift entrusted to us by God Himself. The Apostle Paul writes clearly, "Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you?" This isn't poetic language, it's literal truth. Padre Pio understood this reality with extraordinary clarity. For him, the human body wasn't just biological matter destined for decay. It was a sacred space where heaven and earth meet. As someone who bore the wounds of Christ in his own flesh, the stigmata, he experienced firsthand how the body participates in redemption and sanctification. One of Padre Pio's most powerful statements on this subject came when he was counseling a grieving family. He told them, "Never forget that our bodies are not discarded shells. They are sanctified by the sacraments, marked by baptism, strengthened by confirmation, nourished by the Eucharist, and destined for resurrection. What God has honored, we must also honor." There's a particularly moving account of how Padre Pio treated the body even after death. When one of his spiritual children passed away, he insisted on celebrating the funeral mass himself. Those present noticed how reverently he treated the body, how tenderly he prayed over it. When asked about this later, he simply said, "That body housed a soul that now stands before God. It was washed in baptism, fed with Christ's body, and anointed with holy oil. How could I not show it profound respect?" This respect wasn't sentimental, it was theological. Padre Pio knew what many of us forget. The body is not a temporary shell, but an essential part of our identity. At the resurrection, we will not be disembodied spirits, but complete persons, body and soul, reunited and glorified. The Catechism reminds us that the Christian meaning of death is revealed in the light of the Paschal mysteries, death and resurrection of Christ, in whom resides our only hope. This is precisely why how we treat the body after death matters, because it reflects what we truly believe about resurrection. Padre Pio once told a grieving mother, "Your son's body is asleep, not destroyed. It awaits the trumpet call. What sleeps will awaken. What is sown will rise." This beautiful image of sleep, rather than ending, shaped how he viewed death and the treatment of the body afterward. So before we discuss cremation specifically, we must anchor ourselves in this truth. Your body matters to God. It has been part of your journey of faith. It has knelt in prayer, received the Eucharist, performed works of mercy, and, according to our faith, it will rise again on the last day, transformed, but still truly yours. As we move forward, keep this perspective in mind. It's through this lens of sacred dignity that we can properly understand what Padre Pio revealed about cremation and its relationship to the soul's journey. As we explore these profound teachings of Padre Pio, I want to share something special with you. Many of you have been asking for deeper spiritual guidance based on Padre Pio's wisdom. That's why we've created the ebook, The Spiritual Secrets of St. Padre Pio, a treasure trove of his most powerful prayers, reflections, and practical spiritual advice. This isn't just another book about Padre Pio. It's a spiritual companion that will help you apply his wisdom to your everyday challenges. Inside, you'll find powerful prayers for protection, healing meditations, and practical guidance for strengthening your faith journey. The same spiritual insights that have brought comfort to millions worldwide are now available to guide you through life's difficulties. If today's message on cremation and the soul's journey has touched you, this resource will deepen your understanding even further. Click the link in the comments section to get your copy now. Your spiritual journey with Padre Pio is just beginning. For centuries, the Catholic Church prohibited cremation. This wasn't arbitrary, but rooted in defending the dignity of the body and the belief in resurrection. However, in 1963, the Church modified this position, recognizing that cremation itself wasn't inherently opposed to Christianity. But this change came with important qualifications that Padre Pio was deeply concerned about. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, in IND 2301, now states, "The Church permits cremation, provided that it does not demonstrate a denial of faith in the resurrection of the body." This careful wording reveals something profound. It's not the physical act of cremation that's problematic, but rather the intention and beliefs behind it. When Padre Pio, with his mystical insight, saw beyond the theological statements to the spiritual realities involved, even after the Church permitted cremation, he continued to express caution. When asked directly about this change, he responded thoughtfully, "The Church, in her wisdom, permits what is not intrinsically evil, but wisdom also means discerning what is most conducive to spiritual good." What troubled Padre Pio wasn't cremation itself, but what it often symbolized in modern society, forgetting of the body's sacredness and the reality of resurrection. He observed that many people chose cremation not from practical necessity, but from a diminished understanding of the body's spiritual significance. During a spiritual direction session, Padre Pio once told a physician, "Don't confuse what is permitted with what is spiritually beneficial. The Church permits many things that are not the highest expression of our faith." This distinction between permission and spiritual ideal is crucial to understanding his perspective. One particularly striking statement attributed to Padre Pio was shared by his spiritual children. When asked about cremation, he reportedly paused in deep thought before saying, "Do not be hasty to scatter what God has carefully assembled. There is a divine craftsmanship in the human body that speaks of its creator and its destiny." What's particularly insightful about Padre Pio's approach was his pastoral sensitivity. He never condemned those who chose cremation, especially when it was done for legitimate reasons such as public health requirements, economic necessity, or cultural circumstances. Instead, he encouraged thoughtful discernment. The Church's current position, which Padre Pio would have us carefully consider, includes specific guidelines. Cremated remains should be kept in a sacred place such as a cemetery or columbarium, not scattered or kept at home. This isn't mere regulation, but reflects the belief that the body, even in ash form, deserves reverence and proper ritual care. A practical example of applying Padre Pio's teaching today might be the family who, facing financial constraints, chooses cremation but ensures a proper funeral, mass with the body present, followed by placement of the cremated remains in a blessed cemetery. They honor both practical realities and spiritual truths. What Padre Pio emphasized wasn't rigid adherence to traditional practices for their own sake, but maintaining reverence for the body while understanding its connection to our belief in resurrection. As he often said, what we do with the body after death should reflect what we believe about life after death. As we continue, remember that Padre Pio's concerns were never about judging others, but about preserving the rich incarnational nature of our faith that embraces both body and soul in God's plan of salvation. Perhaps the most pressing question for many is, does cremation harm the soul or affect its journey after death? This concern touches the heart of our fears and hopes for our loved ones who have passed on. Padre Pio, with his extraordinary spiritual gifts, offered profound insights that can bring clarity and peace to troubled hearts. First and foremost, Padre Pio was absolutely clear on one point: the omnipotence of God is not limited by what happens to the physical body after death. In conversations with his spiritual children, he would emphasize, God, who created the universe from nothing, can certainly resurrect a body regardless of its condition. The soul's eternal destiny is not compromised by cremation itself. God's power transcends the physical state of human remains, whether buried intact, cremated, lost at sea, or even completely destroyed by tragedy. What concerned Padre Pio more deeply was not the physical process, but the spiritual disposition behind the choice. He could perceive, with his remarkable spiritual sensitivity, that intentions matter tremendously in spiritual realities. A family choosing cremation for practical reasons while maintaining reverence and faith faces no spiritual obstacle. But choosing cremation as a rejection of Catholic teaching on resurrection or the body's dignity creates spiritual discord. One particularly insightful observation from Padre Pio came when counseling a woman whose husband had requested cremation. He told her, "The state of a person's soul at death is what determines their journey, not what happens to their body afterward. Focus your energy not on worrying about his remains, but on praying for his soul." This practical wisdom redirects our attention to what truly matters spiritually. Many who have chosen cremation for loved ones later experience doubt or guilt, wondering if they've somehow harmed their loved one's soul. To these troubled hearts, Padre Pio would offer tremendous reassurance. One of his spiritual sons shared how Padre Pio comforted a family tormented by such fears. "Your decision was made in love and necessity, not in rejection of faith. God sees this clearly. Now focus on what truly helps your loved one. Your prayers, your masses offered, your acts of charity in their name." This brings us to a critical point in Padre Pio's teaching. What truly impacts the soul's journey is not the treatment of the body after death, but the prayers and spiritual support offered by the living. He emphasized repeatedly that souls in purgatory benefit enormously from masses, prayers, and sacrifices offered for them. During one confession, a man expressed deep anguish about having cremated his father against church guidelines of that time. Padre Pio responded with compassionate clarity, "Your father's soul is not hindered by this, but he does yearn for your prayers. Offer a novena of masses for him, and you will do more for his soul than all your worrying." The practical implications of Padre Pio's insights are profound. If you have already cremated a loved one, the most important thing is not to dwell in guilt, but to support their soul through prayer, mass intentions, and acts of mercy. If you're considering cremation for yourself or a family member, approach the decision with reverence, ensuring that proper Catholic rites are observed and that the remains are treated with dignity. Padre Pio's guidance on this matter always returned to a central theme: God's mercy is greater than any human action or decision. He would often remind the faithful of Jesus' words to Saint Fina, The greater the sinner, the greater the right to my mercy. How much more does this apply to well-intentioned decisions made in difficult circumstances? What ultimately affects the soul's journey is the life lived, the faith embraced, and the love given and received. As Padre Pio would say, live in such a way that your soul is always ready to meet God, and let your loved ones support your journey with their prayers when that moment comes. This is what truly matters in eternity. Among the many extraordinary spiritual experiences in Padre Pio's life, there is one particular encounter that sheds remarkable light on our question about cremation and the soul's journey. This account, carefully preserved by those who witnessed it, offers us both comfort and clarity on this sensitive subject. One afternoon in the early 1960s, while Padre Pio was praying in the sacristy of San Giovanni Rotondo, a woman approached him in visible distress. She had traveled a great distance, driven by profound grief and spiritual anxiety. Weeks earlier, her husband had died suddenly, and in a moment of confusion and overwhelming sorrow, she had chosen cremation without consulting her parish priest. Since then, she had been tormented by guilt and fear, unable to sleep, convinced she had somehow harmed her husband's soul or impeded his journey to heaven. Kneeling before Padre Pio, with tears streaming down her face, she asked the question that burned in her heart. "Father, have I committed an unforgivable sin? Where is my husband's soul? Is he at peace? Or have I condemned him to suffering because of my decision?" Those present described how Padre Pio looked at her with extraordinary compassion. He remained silent for what seemed like an eternity, his eyes closed in deep prayer. The witnesses reported that his face showed signs of being in spiritual communication, something they had seen before when he was granted mystical visions. When he finally spoke, his voice was gentle, yet firm. "God sees the heart. You acted out of grief, not out of contempt for the faith. Your husband's soul is not lost, but he needs your prayers." The woman began to weep even more intensely, but those who observed noted a change in her countenance, the beginning of relief breaking through her despair. What Padre Pio said next would forever mark her soul and offers us profound insight into the reality of the afterlife. His eyes still closed. His words came almost as a divine whisper. "I have seen him. I saw his soul. He is in purgatory. He calls for you, not with reproach, but because he loves you. Because he knows your prayers can open the door to paradise for him. Do not stop offering masses for him. Pray the rosary each night, and do not fear, because your love will be the rope that pulls him from the purifying fire." The woman fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands, but with a new kind of weeping, no longer from anguish, but from hope. That very evening, she wrote in her journal, which her family has preserved as a spiritual treasure, "Padre Pio has restored my peace. My husband is not lost. He is on his way, and I will be his bridge to heaven." From that day forward, she faithfully had a Mass celebrated in her parish on November 20 All Souls Day. She would light a candle before the Sacred Heart and pray the Rosary quietly, knowing that although her husband's body had been reduced to ashes, his soul remained alive, awaiting purification through God's love and his faithful wife's intercession. This account reveals several crucial insights from Padre Pio about cremation and the soul's journey. First, the intention behind our decisions matters more than the decisions themselves. The woman had acted from grief, not from rejection of faith, and God recognized this distinction. Second, Padre Pio confirmed that cremation does not determine the soul's destiny. Her husband's soul was in purgatory not because of cremation, but because, like most souls, he needed purification before entering the fullness of God's presence. Third, and perhaps most importantly, Padre Pio emphasized the power of prayer for the deceased. This is where our focus should be not on guilt over past decisions about remains, but on actively supporting our loved ones through prayer, especially the Rosary and the Mass. For those of us today who face similar questions or carry similar burdens of doubt, Padre Pio's message remains clear. God's mercy transcends our human actions and decisions. What matters most is not how we handled the physical remains, but how we support the soul's journey through our faithful prayers and remembrance. As you reflect on this powerful encounter, consider how it might apply to your own experience with departed loved ones. The greatest gift we can give them is not elaborate funeral arrangements, but our consistent spiritual support through prayer, mass intentions, and acts of mercy offered in their name. In light of everything we've explored through Padre Pio's wisdom, let's now turn to practical guidance for those facing decisions about cremation or carrying concerns about past choices. Padre Pio was never merely theoretical in his approach. He always offered concrete spiritual direction that people could apply in their daily lives. If you have already cremated a loved one and carry doubts or concerns, Padre Pio's first counsel would be this: replace anxiety with prayer. The most powerful thing you can do for your loved one isn't to worry, but to pray. Arrange for masses to be said for their soul, as the Mass is the most powerful prayer the Church possesses. Padre Pio often said, "A single Mass offered for a soul in purgatory has more value than all the gold in the world." Establish a regular prayer routine specifically dedicated to your departed loved one. Padre Pio particularly recommended the Rosary, which he called the weapon for its spiritual power. Even a decade of the Rosary offered daily with sincere love makes a tremendous difference. Remember, in the spiritual realm, love increases the value of our prayers beyond measure. For those currently facing decisions about cremation, whether for yourself or for a family member, Padre Pio would encourage thoughtful discernment rather than hasty decisions. Consult with a knowledgeable priest who can help you navigate both practical considerations and spiritual implications. Ensure that proper Catholic funeral rites are observed, including the funeral Mass with the body present, if at all possible, even if cremation will follow afterward. If cremation is chosen, make concrete plans for the proper interment of the cremated remains in a sacred place, a Catholic cemetery, a columbarium in a church, or another blessed location. This isn't merely about following rules. It's about creating a physical place for remembrance and prayer, honoring the body's dignity even in ash form, and witnessing to our belief in resurrection. Padre Pio would also emphasize the importance of clear communication with family members about your own wishes. Many family conflicts and spiritual anxieties arise because intentions weren't clearly expressed. Have these conversations now while there is time for thoughtful discussion, rather than leaving difficult decisions to grieving loved ones. Perhaps most importantly, Padre Pio would remind us to focus on preparing our souls, not just making arrangements for our bodies. He would often say, prepare to meet God every day of your life, and the details of what happens after your death will fade in significance. Live in a state of grace through regular confession, receive the Eucharist devoutly, pray the Rosary daily, and practice charity. These spiritual habits prepare us far better for eternity than any funeral arrangements. One especially beautiful practice Padre Pio recommended was offering sacrifices and acts of charity for the souls in purgatory. Each act of mercy you perform, he would say, can release torrents of grace for suffering souls. Consider establishing a memorial fund for masses, donating to charitable causes in your loved one's name, or performing works of mercy as spiritual gifts for the deceased. For those struggling with guilt over past decisions, Padre Pio's message was consistently one of hope and mercy. During a spiritual direction session, he told someone tormented by similar concerns, God's mercy is not limited by our mistakes or even by our sins. Offer your pain and regret as a prayer, then replace them with trust in God's infinite understanding. This transformation of regret into faithful trust creates powerful spiritual fruit. As we conclude this practical guidance, let Padre Pio's own words bring peace to your heart. Pray, hope, and don't worry. These simple words contain profound wisdom for approaching all matters of death, burial, and the afterlife. Trust in God's mercy, which is greater than any human decision. Hope in the resurrection that awaits us all. And channel your concern into prayer. The greatest gift you can offer your departed loved ones is not your anxiety or guilt, but your prayers, masses offered, and acts of mercy in their name. As we come to the end of our journey exploring Padre Pio's insights on cremation and the soul's fate, I want to speak directly to your heart. Whatever decisions you've made in the past, or whatever choices lie before you, remember this central truth. God's love and mercy are infinitely greater than any human action or decision regarding physical remains. Padre Pio, with his profound spiritual gifts, consistently pointed us toward what truly matters: not the condition of the body after death, but the state of the soul before God. He reminded us that our focus should always be on preparing our souls through prayer, sacraments, and charity, while supporting our departed loved ones through faithful intercession. The story of the woman who received Padre Pio's mystical reassurance teaches us something beautiful: that even in our moments of confusion or regret, God sees our hearts and honors our love. Our departed loved ones don't need perfect decisions. They need our prayers, our masses offered, and our rosaries prayed with devotion. If today's message has touched your heart or brought you peace about a difficult decision, please write "Peace Through Prayer" in the comments. Your witness might bring comfort to someone else carrying the same hidden burden you've been bearing. I also invite you to share this video with someone who might be struggling with questions about cremation, someone mourning a loved one, or anyone seeking clarity on this sensitive topic. The wisdom of Padre Pio isn't meant to be kept to ourselves, but shared as a healing balm for troubled hearts. Remember his powerful words: "In my greatest sufferings, it helps to think of the glory of heaven that awaits us." What is a lifetime of pain compared to an eternity of joy? Whether our bodies return to dust slowly in the earth or quickly through cremation, our souls are destined for God's presence if we live in His love. May Padre Pio's intercession bring peace to your heart, clarity to your mind, and hope for your journey. And may the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Until next time, keep your heart fixed on eternity and your hands busy with prayer. God bless you.